farther apart until his life was gone. I will always remember that day. It was a life-changing moment. I felt confronted by a new reality. In that moment, I heard the call God placed on my life. It was as clear as day. I prayed a prayer out loud that went like this: God, for the rest of my life, I want to do for other men what my grandfather did for me. Mentor men. That was 30 years ago, and I am still living out that covenant with God. I continue to do my best to faithfully pass on to others what my grandfather passed on to me. The purpose of this book. My purpose in writing this book is to answer a question that I think bothers men today. And here's the question. God calls us to take action, but how do we become that kind of man? It's really a two-part question. What does it mean to be a man? How does one act like a man? It's a great question if you think about it. To embrace your identity as a man, you need to know how to define manhood. Then, you need to move from this definition into real action. I think it is critical not only to ask these questions, but to have clear and simple answers. I want to be able to attain the goal of being a great man. But I also want to be able to confidently teach my children and others what a godly man looks like. In this way, I'm passing on what my grandfather passed on to me. Take a look at this touching moment. King David, one of the greatest leaders of all time, is about to die. He is handing the leadership baton to his son Solomon. Listen to what he says. I am about to go the way of all the earth, he said. So be strong. Act like a man. 1 Kings chapter 2, verse 2. Over the years, I have dug into this topic from many different angles. I've found that defining manhood can be a complicated task. And what complicates it are all the different approaches men use to define and attain their identity. Here are some familiar approaches. First, some choose to define manhood by contrasting it with womanhood. Men will reinforce this contrast by using phrases like man up or don't be a sissy, which have a long-standing negative connotation for women. Even subtle expressions of this contrast do not describe manhood. They may reinforce our ignorance about the definition of real manhood, since many of the attributes of manhood and womanhood are remarkably similar. Second, others tend to describe manhood by contrasting it with childhood. You will hear some men make proclamations like, grow up, or don't act like a baby, man up. But these are failed attempts too. While this contrast might appear to gain ground, it fails to account for the magnificence of childlike innocence, youthful receptivity, and even the faith that Jesus appreciated in young children. Such a definition of manhood is focused exclusively on maturity, physical strength, accrued knowledge, and emotional stability. Yet we cannot ignore the fact that while these are good and important traits for men, we should not outgrow some childlike attributes. Third, there are some who choose to define manhood based on a role or position in life. For example, manhood is defined by the position of husband, father, or occupational title. Now here, we might feel like we are getting somewhere, but we must pose the obvious question. Am I less of a man if I am not married, have no children, or don't have a job? While on my journey of becoming a man, I will always need some direction on how to navigate the challenges of these roles and positions. But I believe our definition of manhood should transcend them. Finally, there are still others who might define manhood as something achieved through positive virtues or avoidance of vices. Now, we do make more progress with this approach. For evidence, we turn to one of the great works on this subject, Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics. His study on this topic has